welcome to this demo in which I'm going to show you the basic functionalities of the Function Repository front-end app that we are developing for the EDGELESS system. Right now, we are on the home page of the app and we can work with functions or workflows. Let's start with functions. The functions page allows us to see the list of available functions, the functions that are already stored in the Function Repository. We have options to work with each of these functions, so we can view, edit or delete any of these functions. And if we scroll down, we can go to the next page and see the next functions. Something interesting about these functions is that the function repository allows us to have multiple versions for each of these functions. For instance, if we choose this HTTP root number and we go to the delete option, this takes us to the delete function page, and here we can choose whether we want to delete all the versions of this function by clicking on this delete function button, or delete a specific version of this function. For example, if we want to delete this 0.2 version, we can click on this delete button, confirm the deletion, and the function version has been deleted. Okay, now let's continue by creating a new function. For that, we need to click on this Create New Function button. When we create a new function, what we are defining is the class specification of this new function. So we need to fill this form here. Starting with the ID, I'm going to copy the ID, paste it here. Now we need to define the version. This version is going to be the 0.1, the function type. For now we only support the Rust once type. Select the file. And assign the outputs. So I'm going to copy outputs, paste it here. We can create here several outputs separated by commas. So I'm going to click on save, and the function has been created. And I'm going to create another function that I will be using later. This function is the ML preprocessor. The version is 0.1. We keep the function type Rust wasm. I'm going to select the code file and assign the outputs. This function is going to have a single output, and click on save. Okay, we can click on next, and here we have one of the functions that we have just created. If we click on view, we can see the details of this function. So now let's continue with workflows. If we go to the workflows section, we can see the list of available workflows, the workflows that are stored in the function repository. For each of these workflows, again, we have several options to view the workflow, to edit the workflow, or to delete the workflow. Let's start creating a new workflow. So I'm going to click here, create new workflow. We need to assign a name. And we need to assign the proper JSON for this workflow. As you can see, the JSON of the workflow contains the functions, the resources, and the annotations. I have prepared a workflow definition for this example, so I'm going to copy and paste it here. In this example, I am creating a workflow that contains two functions, 3 resources. One of them is an HTTP ingress, and the other two are file log resources. And if we click on save, as you can see, we have an error. What's the reason? Well, as you can see, the ID here is empty because we have a validation that checks that all the functions that we are using in the workflow exist in the function repository. If we scroll up, we can see that the first function that we are using, in the class specification ID, we have an empty value. So we need to define here what's the proper class specification ID. So I'm going to assign the proper value here. As you can see, the version is correct, because this is the function that we created previously, the data parsing with the version 0.1, and for the other function, the machine learning preprocessor, with the version 0.1. So if we click on save, the workflow has been created successfully. So let's click on close. And now let's check the workflow that we just created. Okay, I think that we have the workflow here. If we click on view, we can see the details of the workflow here in the JSON tab, and we can click on the workflow UI tab. That allows us to see the workflow in a graphical mode. Something about this workflow UI is that for now it is only available to view workflows, but we are developing the functionalities to create and edit workflows for future versions of this front-end tab. We can click on any of these, for example, the HTTP ingress, and see the details about it. And the same for each of these functions. We can click on this data parsing, for example, and it provides us information about this function. The same for each of these resources. So let's go back. And now I'm going to edit this workflow. And let's delete, for example, one of these resources. Let's delete this file log2. And in the output mapping, let's delete also this file log2. Now let's click on save. The workflow has been updated. And if you the workflow, click it, and as you can see, the file log2 has been deleted, and we can see graphically that the file log2 resource is not in the workflow anymore. So that's it for this demo. Thank you for your attention.